So folks, welcome to the start of the interactive sessions. As Tracy mentioned, this panel is focusing on digital financial services, and we have a distinguished group here. If you want to get their details about their bios and background and so on, feel free to go online to do it because time is of the essence. I'll just quickly introduce the panel. Zaf Rahaman is owner and founder of Forward Multimedia. And before that, how many of you all here are under 25 years old? Put up your hands. Fake news here. How many of you all are under 30 years old? And how many of you all are under 35 years old? Okay, how many of you all are over 40 years old? And the reason why I'm asking that is because, by and large, sessions like these are the domain of younger people.
I think so.
So you'll ask yourself, why am I actually facilitating a panel discussion geared towards the younger people? But I'll mention that I've been involved in ICT for over 35 years, and serious lobbying in various guises and forms over the years, currently with the TTMAG, to really ensure that our ICT space is really comparable to any of the first world countries and so on. Has this been a rewarding journey? Partially so. Has it been a hard journey? The answer is yes. But really it's for the younger people in the crowd to step up and make sure that whatever transpires today and so on materializes in some form or fashion, something tangible that you all can actually use. And the discussions with the panel here are going to tell you things that you can do, things that currently are possible, things that should be possible, and so on. And it is a sad indictment, rather than starting off on a negative note. But for years, Trinidad has been such a good, healthy economy and so on. And if you match that with what progress we've made in the ICT space and so on, it has been spotted. We've made some progress, and then we've dropped off and plateaued, and then we've made some further progress and so on. We need to make another leap forward. So part of the discussion with the group today is to really find out more about the digital financial services, the landscape, and really what can be done, why things can be done, and how it can be done. And just a quick definition of digital financial services: the broad range of financial services accessed and delivered through digital channels, including payments, credit, savings, remittances, and insurances. The digital financial services concept includes mobile financial services. In this context, the term digital channel refers to the internet, mobile phones, ATMs, point-of-sale terminals, NFC-enabled chips, devices, electronically enabled cards, biometric devices, tablets, any other digital system. Digital financial services models usually employ agents and a network of other third-party intermediaries to provide accessibility and lower the overall service delivery cost. So let me just engage in some discussions with the panel here, and what we'll do is really have a kind of a talk show type of approach. We'll have some question and answers going here, and then we'll throw it open for the wider audience to participate, both the in-house audience here as well as the remote participants. So I mentioned to the panel, I'll give you an opportunity, no more than 2 minutes, because I'm going to actually time you out after 2 minutes. But to make a few introductory remarks, why all this interest in digital financial services, what are the benefits and so on, but a few introductory remarks. So Zaf?
Good morning, everyone. Well, thank you for having me first, and especially for this session, digital financial services. My part mainly deals with my industry, website design and e-commerce, and I've noticed there's a lack of information, a lot of misinformation, and lack of awareness of the payment options and payment methods and payment gateways, online payment in general, and e-commerce in Trinidad and Tobago. And I've interacted with banks and payment gateway providers, businesses, all stakeholders, and I've interacted with a lot of them, and given my long experience since 2011, I've been following this topic I've written a lot of articles, and I've gained a lot of insights and experience. And hopefully I'll be able to share this with you today. And I share it freely on my website, my blogs and articles, and I hope to share it with you freely today, and hopefully you will go back, a little more educated about e-commerce in Trinidad and Tobago, which is a big, huge topic right now, and really growing. Thank you.
Glynis?
Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for having me on this session. I represent what we'll known as legacy payment infrastructure. I run the Links network. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Links. We see quite a bit of transactions taking place across the network. I could tell you from what I see and from the information I get from the banks. Links see close to 48 million transactions every year and growing. We have a network that consists of 500 ATMs, almost 20,000 point of sale machines in Trinidad and Tobago, and roughly 8,000 to 9,000 merchants, depending on the season. Christmas and Carnival, where you see a lot of people come on temporary in terms of doing point of sale. And then there, of course, there is in fact credit cards. Trinidad has roughly 200,000 credit cards within the country. It's not a one-to-one ratio by any means. Some people have 2 and 3 credit cards. The reality is we need in this country for a lot more electronic and digital transactions to take place within the financial services industry. A study by MasterCard in 2016 showed that if we grow our electronic transactions by 30%, our GDP will increase by 3.5 to 4%. We have a lot of work to do. There's room for the legacy infrastructure, and there's room for new players. And this is a time, and I think in times of challenges and difficulty, as we are experiencing now, it is time for entrepreneurs and those persons who are engaged in the e-space, the e-commerce space, to really put their foot forward and contribute to the development. There's room for all. And I think the society is waiting for that. We are a well-educated, well-traveled society. We're seeing all what's happening out there, and there's a pent-up demand for more in terms of electronic transaction to take place within Trinidad and Tobago.
Good, and we'll talk some more specifics about those during the panel discussion. Shernon?
Yes, first of all, it's a pleasure and honor to be here. For us at Internet Society, it's not just about to participate at an event, it's more about to give a contribution to development of the internet. And this is basically what we are doing. If you look at normally at the topics that we discuss within internet governance, we are looking at, let's say, infrastructure development, we are looking at legal aspects. We are talking about development, we are talking about security, economic, social, cultural, and human rights. But it's very important that we focus on the economic part and also development. And that is why this particular topic, digital financial services, is very important, because we can use it to continue, let's say, promote and develop a particular country. So in that regard, I would like to focus later on a bit more on, from the economic and development perspective, why Internet Society does care when it comes to these kind of topics. Thanks.
And Aldwyn?
All right, well, I'm from WiPay, and to touch on Zaf and Glynis and Mr. Shernon, senior name there, we basically took everything that they were talking about and tried to bring it to reality. So WiPay is an online payment platform, which does credit card processing. So Zaf can now have all his websites become e-commerce websites with a plugin. We've worked with Zaf very closely to help bring e-commerce websites into the space without the need for all the red tape that is currently, well, previously required. So simple like PayPal, you just download a plugin, and Zaf could now start accepting payments online. In terms of the traditional electronic payments, links and so forth, we see the need for transitioning bank payments online, and we're currently working with a couple banks to do stuff just like what you're requesting recommend we should do. This all could culminate into what Shernon was talking about in terms of helping the economy, helping it grow. We have up to 10,000 sign-ups within the last 6 months from mostly entrepreneurs. People Zaf probably recommended to get your business online with a website, app, just to download the plugin and you start receiving payments from anywhere in the world. So our push is really and truly to help the development of Trinidad and Tobago within that e-commerce space. So that's basically what we're trying to do.
Okay, well, and leveraging off what the various panelists here indicated, okay, there's this interest in digital financial services, growing interest and so on. Some of you all touched on some of the benefits, but specifically, what are some tangible benefits? Why should people play in this space? Zach?
Why should people play in this space? I mean, digital financial services, e-commerce. In Trinidad and Tobago is growing, yes, and Amazon has been around for over 20 years. And just as recently as 2011, when I had started Forward Multimedia, at that time we probably had just one bank with a payment gateway, that was Scotia Bank, working with First Atlantic Commerce. And it was wait till after 2013, I think, when FCB came on board. At that time, even Scotia Bank at that time wasn't really offering it across the board. And even since 2011, I've been having a lot of questions asked by people wanting to get online. And even then, I was green at that point in time with e-commerce. And apparently at that time, only PayPal was like an option, but it was never an optimal option. So from 2011 to 2013, when FCB finally came on board, that's when I saw personally, and I started to learn myself, I saw personally payment options becoming more mainstream and accessible to, at that time, was more larger businesses. Actually, first integration I did with First Atlantic Commerce cost $1,800 US for just the integration alone with a Magento platform. And since then, I've been looking for cheaper ways, alternative ways. Eventually, my friend Aldwyn, and hello to Aldwyn, because we've been meeting for the first time since last year. We've been on the phone and email and chat all the time. And, but still, it was always very expensive. But everyone who calls me asking for an e-commerce store, most people ask, I want a store like Amazon, I want to be something like Amazon. So finally now we have a lot of people, especially smaller to medium-sized businesses, not just big business who want to get online. Everybody, they just know that, even at that time in 2011, people had to be convinced that they needed a website. Now we're over that point now where they know that now a website is something very standard. There's no getting around it. Now the next play really is selling online, and that's where we are right now.
And from a perspective of selling online and so on, and now that virtually all of the banks have their electronic payment facility and so on, do you see that there's a greater uptake by the entrepreneurs and so on to really create e-commerce websites and look to sell their products and services online?
Well, the problem really was that there was no real information out there. People just didn't know how to get online, how to sell online, what platforms to use, what payment methods were available. The first thing that comes to mind for everyone is PayPal. And in 2017, actually, visits to my websites via the search query of PayPal and all iterations was the #1 landing point to my website. Everyone wants to know about PayPal, which means they want to know about payment systems. That's only when they're on my site then they realize, well, we have payment options like First Atlantic Commerce. And even in my articles, I had predicted more or less that eventually an aggregator like PayPal would come, and eventually, well, Aldwyn did come with WiPay to bring a more user-friendly and easy and affordable payment option that small and medium-sized businesses could use that don't need a merchant account at a bank and the lengthy red tape and the expensive cost to integrate that could use a lower tier platform like WordPress, and smaller businesses could get online. I mean, really, literally, as long as when they move fast enough, literally, they should be able to get online probably within the same evening if they wanted to, as opposed to getting, as opposed to applying for merchant accounts at the bank, getting approved, getting merchant IDs, getting integrated, getting reviewed and tested and online. So we have a lot more interest now.
Sure, and Glynis, from your perspective, what do you see as some of the benefits in your corporate position? You interface a lot with the various banks and so on.
Well, the key thing is cash. You want to get cash out of the system because cash is very expensive to maintain. People don't realize that carrying cash, there's a huge cost to having cash on your premises. At the macro level, there's a cost to print, there's a cost to store. From a business level, there's a cost to secure. And in these times, I do not understand why people want to keep so much cash on their premises. When you see these headlines, robberies at people's homes or in supermarkets, etc., and you hear bandits leaving off with $100,000 in cash, you ask yourself why, right? But the reality is security is very expensive. It's extremely expensive in these days for armed security to protect your cash. So we need, in order to become more efficient and effective as businesses, both medium and small businesses, we need to encourage the electronic transactions. And we're seeing it more and more. Recently, we saw the ad by RBC where they're talking about they're transforming into a digital bank. And it's for those reasons, that the cost of carrying cash is really expensive. And you need more to encourage, to change the behavior of the population to engage in the electronic transactions, right? Because it's extremely efficient to do that. And as I said in my opening, when you increase the amount of electronic transactions within a country, it impacts on the macro level. So not only from a corporate point of view, but from a macroeconomic point of view, you want more electronic services, more electronic transaction. When I talk, people think, oh, that links, the competition is credit card. My competition on credit card, my competition is cash. Pure and simple cash, right? You want to convert that cash into transaction. And it's difficult because, yes, you have the infrastructure element, the higher level infrastructure element, such as the e-commerce gateways, etc., which are still a little pricey because at the end of the day, it's about massa. It's about mass transactions. When an entrepreneur invests in a platform that is $1,800 US, how much you have to sell to offset that $1,800 US? It's a lot, right? So it's about mass. So we have to find a way to do that even cheaper as well. And it's about collaboration and the likes of WiPay and more like WiPay to offer more of those services so that the cost is shared, because that's the only way it'll get cheaper. The cost has to be shared, all right? So I look forward to more of the entrepreneurial spirit entering within the financial services, because I keep telling, there is a pent-up demand. The amount of people knock on Link's door in a month wanting to know if they could hook up or hook in, it's amazing. And that for me tells me the pent-up demand for services, that people are thinking about it and want to engage in it.
Okay, and I can use a fairly recent example about this cash situation. I was horrified earlier this week. My wife had to buy a taillight to replace one that I actually damaged on her car. So yes, the motor vehicle company had in stock, yes, and of course my wife sent a messenger to purchase it with a check, and they told her they're not accepting checks, they're only accepting cash. Well, when I heard that, I was horrified. In today's world, something as fundamental as that, you're accepting cash, and it wasn't a small amount of cash that we was going to be working with. Before I go to Shernon, Aldwyn, from a perspective of benefits, yes, you've been doing a lot in this space and so on, but there must be a motivating factor, a reason why you want to do more. It's not just all, I need to make up, pay more money for myself and so on, but this is something that is broader than that.
Much broader. So when I graduated, so I went to school outside, I was exposed to a lot of the first world type payment systems, you know what I mean? And I try to figure out every time I come back home, why are we not doing something similar? Same type of people, same need for the services, why we not, just not jumping in? As Glynis said, why people still think they need to carry cash in their grocery store or pay with cash, and it's because of the culture here. So in the region as well, we are not the first in this space in the Caribbean. We looked at Jamaica, there's about 87 wallets trying to do the same things. Connect, I think, just folded up last month. So we learned from what the first world country is doing, and then what we expect, and try to come right in between. So since we have a cash-based culture, we did the online e-commerce part for ZAF and people who are interested in credit card payments. But then we added the second part, which is to address that cash bit. We actually allow people to digitize their cash using a familiar medium. So our culture, cash-based still. I know you said 200,000, which kind of makes it about 20%. Since you have more than one person having a credit card, it's closer to 9–10%, right? So the thing is, you're trying to market to a population that only 9% you actually could reach, or 10, let's say 15 in your case. So what about the other 85%? Cash. But we don't want them to work with cash. So what WiPay did was use an existing mechanism for getting cash online or digitizing cash that we are accustomed doing, topping up your cell phone. You go and buy a phone card, you actually convert that cash into phone credit. You don't see it, but you just digitize your $20 into an online commodity that you could use, airtime. So if we just expand that just a little bit and put that credit into something usable, as in pays off on his website, well then you can now, in the regular way that the 80% or 85% like to do, go to a phone booth or lotto booth or Massey store, buy a top-up, and now use it as e-commerce payments. Now we get into that space. It's nothing new. America has been doing it, first world country has been doing it with prepaid gift cards. You can walk in a Walmart and pick up a gift card any day of the week. So you convert cash to an online space in that instance. So what we did was build on it, but use it in a space and in a way that we are accustomed doing it, which is with phone card top-up. So the same online payment methods that you would expect from a credit card, you can now have the cash-based society doing it. So now there's inclusion for everyone, not only the credit card or the bank or the ones that has the facility or access to the facility. Anyone who has access to cash can now play in this online space. So that was the first step in our mind to move digital payments forward. How do we get a society that's centered around cash payments to move to online space? And by providing a mechanism in which they're comfortable with. I mean, we still have some educating to do. We still haven't actually fully launched that front-facing product to the public yet. But that's how we see we could transition them on to cash. We've been having a lot of businesses for that very cash in transit problem, using our system for moving cash from, let's say, Point 410 or Wayagarari back to their bank accounts through that same network, because 1,500.
And Shernon, you said you wanted to talk some more about the economic development perspective on this and so on. From the point of view of the benefit to our economy and so on, what do we want to say about that?
Okay, basically, if you just take a look globally, approximately 2 million US dollars are being generated just in, let's say, 30 seconds. So if you look at, let's say, e-commerce. So if people are not connected to the internet, then they cannot take advantages of all these benefits that we're seeing out there. So that is why for internet society, the first thing that we should be focusing on is to get people connected to the internet. Globally, we have 7 billion people walking around on this globe, and from that number, a bit more than 3 billion are connected. So we still have almost like 4 billion that are not connected to the internet. So that's the first thing. And if you just take a look, for example, given that this topic is focusing on digital financial services, we need to move on from, let's say, what I would call, let's say, analog financial services to the digital financial services. So there is a path that should be followed. If you just take a look, for example, globally, we have 1 out of 5 persons that have access to banks, to the formal banks that we have there. This means from this number, 1 out of 5, still a lot of them are not even using their accounts. So we need to find ways how we can get people not only being connected to the internet, but also using their accounts. Internet society, for example, okay, I don't want to focus much on, let's see, on what, it's not an internet society talk, basically, but we believe it's very important that we have, for example, give people access. When they have access, then the rest will follow. I was mentioning, for example, if you look at the definition of the digital financial services, there are 3 areas that we need to look at. The first one is the users, for example, and here we talk about the consumers, businesses, governments, agencies, and so on. We have the providers, the banks, other licensed financial institutions, and also non-banks, and the governmental, let's say, policies. And here they draft, let's say, law and regulations. So if we would like to get, let's say, especially the Caribbean, getting connected and to use more digital financial services, we need to take a more holistic approach, not only focusing on the users. We need to also focusing on, let's say, the providers in this case, and especially more importantly, talking to governments, because they are the ones that are drafting, let's say, policies in a given country. If we look at the whole monetary system that we're using nowadays, nowadays is the first time after 500 years that this whole money system has been challenged. If you look at Bitcoin and other systems, and it's a bit scary for governments as well, because we used to have a centralized system at which, let's say, the monetary system was monitored, if I can use that word. But now we are moving more in a decentralized environment, and most players don't know exactly how to deal with this new environment. So again, from our perspective, we believe we should be focusing on development, raise awareness, what are the challenges out there, and how can we give our contribution in that regard.
Well, in that regard, let me ask Glynis. Glynis, InfoLink had done some work and have been lobbying with the various banks to provide more, I suppose, online payment facilities, digital financial services. What are some additional digital financial services with the existing environment and infrastructure in Trinidad that the banks can offer, the banks in the first instances, and probably entrepreneurs, much like Aldwyn and his company, can offer? From your perspective, what do you feel are some of the things, additional things that can be offered?
Well, there are things that are coming down the pipeline, because it's not that the market and industry is static. Let me just say this. I want to put a plug in for this because it's very important. Education about the responsibility of offering or participating in the digital financial services space is also extremely crucial. Where there's a will, there's a way, and the issue of fraud is topmost in the minds of the industry, because it is a $1 trillion global business. And as soon as you plug a hole where security is in financial services, another one pops up. It's about keeping up, because you can't keep ahead. It's about keeping up with the fraudsters. So before I get to your question,
Sure.
another very important thing as we look to expand this space is about education all around, both on the consumer, retailers, entrepreneurs, the providers of services on the back end, to always keep that upmost in your mind in the delivery of the service. The security of the monies is very crucial, because once you have a hole, it compromises the integrity of the system. And that's what you don't want, because
Sure.
in order to grow this transaction business en masse, it must be, the integrity cannot be questioned or compromised.
But Glynis, sometimes you hear people saying that because of the security issue and so on, I'm unwilling to go that route. I prefer to stay with the more formal and traditional banking products and services.
And that's why I say education is important. That's why I say education is important, because a lot of the fraud that takes place within the traditional space is because people are not paying attention and a lack of awareness. A simple thing, and I see it today, I mean, because I'm a card person, whether it be credit or my Links card, a simple thing as keeping your PIN secret. A simple thing. You don't know how many people's PIN I read while I'm in the grocery line. You see, as simple as that. Right? As simple as that. Because as a business, I'm always looking. I mean, I'm always looking to see why people are pulling out $4,000 to buy groceries as opposed to swiping. That's another conversation. But as simple as that, right? You're now hearing a lot of ads about banks will never call you to ask about your PIN. I was talking to one of my banking colleagues. He said, it's amazing. It's not about the quality of education, how much educated you know. It's amazing how many people fall for that phishing. It's amazing how many people will get a call and give out their PINs on the phone because they think it's legit, or they're online and they see something pop up and it looks like their bank and they put their PIN and their account number in. It's amazing. And that's on the traditional legacy space. Far more when you go out into the non-traditional space, you need to have people very aware and savvy about the responsibility and the risk in dealing in the digital space, all right? And that's very important, because you don't want the integrity of the system to be compromised, because then that erodes any sort of branding and stuff you have done for the particular service. Now, to get back to your question in terms of what can be done, when you look at what's taking place in the global space in terms of the ease of transaction, and I was looking at some statistics yesterday, looking at what is happening in first world. Now, one of the, as InfoLink and Links, one of the systems that we look at is the Canadian system, because their system is Interact, which is built similarly, which we have built similarly to. In the early days of Links, a lot of the consultants who worked on the designing the Link system and collaborating the banks, etc., were actually Canadians and had, in fact, done a lot of work with Interact. The things that they offer, P2P, person-to-person payment, we kind of have it, but it's not as real-time as we would like it to be. All right, whereby we all go out to eat, we're sharing a meal, and instead of everybody ponying up cash, you just, by a click of your phone, etc., pay back persons. That's huge. That's a pent-up demand that I think of. Things that contactless, tap and go, huge. I mean, if we can put tap and go at our parking facilities, parking lots, every parking lot I go now that are run by NIPDEC,
Yeah.
you're seeing no links or credit card, and nothing has irked me. And I have to be digging around in my bag, hoping I have a 20. And the next thing they always have, please have exact change. Right? Things like that. Those things drive the efficiency within a society, raise productivity level. And those are simple things, you know. Those not hard to do, you know. right? And without talking out of school, those things are coming. Probably not fast enough, but they are coming. And then on the business to business side, you have things that we have already, things that the ACH, which allows business to interact with not only other businesses, but consumers and employees. Things like payroll, right? Instead of sending this file to the bank and the bank have to pull it apart, you have things like ACH, which allows credit and debits on both sides of the house to move monies faster. So instead of waiting for a check to clear for 7 days or 4 days, or in some cases now RBC no days because they don't want your check. And again, that's about moving, and I hope people are not at all put out by that, because that is actually moving and changing behavior of the society. Digitizing a bank, encouraging people to use the ATMs and other things as opposed to coming in the banks. And they get a licks for doing things that other people are going to do sooner rather than later down the pipeline, right? So those are some of the things that we already have in place. And if we know about it more and the persons who have it market it more or encourage to use it more, we will actually change the behavior of business and by extension society going down the line.
And positively affect productivity as a whole.
And for productivity, and also, I mean, this is the bugbear, encourage government to move faster in getting to that space. And I mean, Danny, I know you have long stories to tell about that, but hopefully that's a catalyst.
Okay, and it's a genuine catalyst and so on, and we'll stay away from that for the time being, because that's a whole can of worms in its own right. There are persistent complaints by MSMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises and so on, that it's difficult to be part of the formal banking sector because of the onerous requirements, anti-money laundering, counter-terrorist financing and so on. To the panel, does digital financial service present an opportunity for addressing these concerns? Anyone?
So Jack, I'll answer your question, but I want to jump on something that Glynis.
Go ahead.
So I'm just going back for like 2 seconds to address security, first of all. Again, trusting a new brand, trusting something new is very difficult. So what we did, and what I think any fintech in this space would have to do, is partner with existing legacy companies who have done that legwork. Can't call names, but we're working with a couple banks to utilize your network, but through the bank. What we would take care of would be the onboarding of the customer, making that easy. So we still will sit within the regulations of what the bank requires for onboarding a customer, but it would be a lot faster because of the technology that we would be implementing. How we get these transactions so fast, I'm not going to go into it. There's a section this afternoon on blockchain that I think would address the speed in transactions on the network. So I'll probably leave that for then. But we will take care of that front-facing part and let the legacy banks take care of the back end of getting information to the account, transferring or getting it from your card. So to your point, Jag, and that's on the topic you were talking about in terms of how we could work together, how new companies could come in this space to make it move faster. So I try to do it on your own, use existing companies that has that security back end already built in, and try to plug some of the vulnerable holes you have, like skimming parts, so we move away from cards, but have the same back end infrastructure. In terms of how I see the country moving forward, or the challenges for people using this type of service and the education putting out there, we found the best way to meet this challenge is to partner with places and things that people are accustomed with. So a week ago, I'm not too sure if any of you all saw, Marcy had this ad out.
I saw, I was really impressed. I'm dying to try it.
Right, yeah, it's super cool. So one of the things is, so we built this application for Marcy. But if we go there and say, you know what, all your Marcy cards, sit on this blockchain that you could do fancy things with it, nobody have an idea what I'm saying. Maybe about 2 people, right? And we found, you know what, let's do things to help people in their daily lives without even mentioning that technology. I guess that's why I'm on the panel later on. So we don't even talk about it. We just put something out there that you like. So the lines in Massey was a huge problem. You could go to the store right after you finish, right next door, and try it out. You could download this app, tap on 4 items, and walk out. Well, this is spending that you have your credit card tied to it or you have money in your WiPay account. But the thing is, you don't have to line up. And this have nothing, we have not tried to sell this as a e-wallet or digital payment or anything like this. It's just convenience. If you don't like the long lines, you could have this Massey app on your phone. You tap on 4 items, so going home for dinner this afternoon, steak, eggs, I'm missing something, and some carbs. And you walk out the store. That's it. So how we see integrating these new online payments and getting people accustomed to it is by giving them something that helps them in their daily lives. We partner with MP and UDPET. Well, UDPET. I mentioned MP. So you can now go up to the gas station and just like you say, you don't need any change. The money that you have on there from before when you're in the Massey store, you can just tap on the little tablet out on the forecourt and you make your payment right there. So it makes it easier for someone like me who hate to see that long line. I could just use my phone and tap on a tablet right there, the UDPET gas station and the MP right on Rising Road. You just tap on it and you make the payment. Right? That comes from my credit card or it came from cash that I loaded on earlier. So I don't have to deal with that process in there.
Okay, good.
And all that takes place in the back end
Sure.
on ACH.
And we got to throw it out to the wider audience because, of course, we have a limited time. To the extent that, how many of you all use mobile banking services? Show by raising hands. Excellent. So it's actually pleasing to know that more than 50% of the audience is. Let me throw it out to the group here. Any questions that you all have that you want to ask the panelists? Just if it's a specific panelist, just identify who you want to answer the question. Or if it's all, just mention all persons. So it's an open forum now. And there are mics floating around for you to ask the questions. There's one on this side and there's one on that end of the room.
Good morning.
And feel free to introduce yourself as well.
Okay, sure. Good morning, Chanel Padmore, Caribbean Resourcing Solutions. Shernon mentioned earlier, he was quoting some international statistics on connectivity to the internet, right? Saying the numbers need to go up. Is there anyone in this room who knows statistics for Trinidad and Tobago in terms of our current connectivity?
Yep.
Is no one from TAT here? No? Well, I'm not from TAT. Formally. Thanks, Rishi. Trinidad and Tobago is the only country in the Caribbean whose regulatory framework includes the ISPs as a matter of course. That's why TAT has their quarterly market report, which they publish, and it says penetration by household and penetration by people, by individual. They do it every quarter. December isn't up, but September is. So as of September, broadband penetration above 1 meg in Trinidad and Tobago was, I believe, 58%, and it's down from 64% by household. It's at 58 or 59%, down from 61, 62% a year before. That's because of, I presume, because of recession and people cutting back. Their mobile internet penetration is, I can't remember off the top of my head, but you go to tat.org.tt, go to statistics, and you'll see under the quarterly market update for September, among the slides, go through the slides, very interesting, it lets you know everything that's going on in the market. It's on TAT's website, but Trinidad and Tobago's penetration is, from the regulator, as reported to the ITU and World Economic Forum, 68%, 58% households, 17 or 18% individual, just for 58 divided by 4. And the mobile penetration is also, it's pretty high. It's like 30, it's nearly 40 to 50%. We're not doing that bad.
Chrissy, you must have a question. You must have a question.
Great show, guys.
Okay. Well,
Another question. There's another question there.
well, okay. We'll take a question from
And remote
and
as
then
well.
we'll take the online question.
Good morning, everyone. Nigel Casimir from the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. In terms of the digital financial services, the question relates to how much government uses these services. I mean, I've been hearing for years about legislative barriers to the government doing certain things in the online world as far as financial services are concerned, and to what extent are you as practitioners seeing progress with the Ministry of Finance in terms of government transactions, and would that be a desirable impetus to the whole uptake and progress of electronic commerce in Trinidad and Tobago?
Danny, you want to take that one?
I want to take it, but then I'll take the next half an hour to lament where we are. Our government, let me precede my statements by saying this. Even if the perfect legislation isn't in place, you can still do things. So it's easy for government and government agencies to say, well, you can't do this because the legislation isn't in place. I disagree with that. There's enough legislation in place that will allow you to do, even if it's the basic things. But I have actually been involved in various committees and so on, and had presentations by the Ministry of Finance as to what they intend to do with regards to, let's say, accepting online payments for services. And anytime there's a presentation and so on, I leave there disheartened. If I look at the early 2000s, from 2000 to probably the end of that decade, there was a tremendous amount of progress made in the country in terms of legislation and infrastructure. Have we actually leveraged on that to actually bring us any further forward? We seem to have plateaued out. I was on one end advocating, and in fact, let's say meeting with Treasury Department and various government agencies to actually discuss the mechanisms by which they can accept online payments. Yes, and this was way back in 2012. Have we made any progress since then? The answer is no. If there's a change in the control of accounts at the Ministry of Finance, it is a step backwards, and you have to go through a lot of the different steps that you went through with the previous comptroller just to get you to the point where you can start making progress. Government does not seem inclined to actually want to do this as a matter of course, and I'm cynical at this point in time. I have gray hair, so I can afford to be cynical. The thing about it is, the perspective they adopt is the wrong perspective. It's not a customer-oriented perspective, it's what I can do perspective. If you look at what the market is demanding, you will actually then look to change your approach to dealing with it. And can things happen, and can the, certainly IGov teaching for years have been talking about various models to adopt. I remember way back, Citibank told the government that if you're having challenges and so on, we can come and implement something for you literally overnight. There are solutions, but the powers that we have to make sure that they want to actually implement these solutions. Glynis talked about you going to some government agencies and so on. Well, she talked about the parking lots, but certainly government agencies and so on. They don't accept links, they don't accept credit card, they just want cash. That is slowly changing, but not changing fast enough. If we want to be a progressive country and we want to actually impact on productivity, we have to change these things. The direct answer to the question is based on a last presentation from the Ministry, the Treasury Division and so on. It's open-ended. There's no target date within which to establish this and that and to enable online payment for services. And if you enable online payment for services, you're actually in a position to collect taxes faster as well. So everything is positive. There is a consultant who the government has had that is actually charged with coming up with a framework for electronic funds transfers. And it's a 9-month project and so on, at the end of which you'll get a framework. Well, wow. You're not getting anything implemented, you're getting a framework, and primarily looking at the B2B situation and so on, not looking at really business to individuals, business to persons type of situation. So are we making progress? Yes. Are we making significant progress? The answer is no. There are persons from within government who can actually throw another perspective on it. I am not happy where we are at. Other countries are actually accepting electronic payments and have no problems and so on. But yet we have stumbling blocks at every point in time, which are more mindset stumbling blocks than actually infrastructure or possibilities stumbling blocks. It can be done, and it can be done fairly easily and so on. It's just that the powers that we have to make up their mind that they want to do it. And I don't think at this point in time that they have done so. So that's my long-winded answer. I'm not a panelist, by the way.
Online?
Shernon wants to add to this.
Just one short comment based on what Kwesi said a while ago. Because he was mentioning, and this related to, let's say, development. You were mentioning, for example, that you consider, let's say, broadband 1 megabit per second. So that's, yes, but yes, but
that is absolutely ridiculous.
That is exactly what I wanted to say. We should not fool ourselves, because if you look basically at the definition of broadband, and there are basically 3 organizations out there. Each one of them have, let's say, their own definition with regard to broadband. But then we talk about 2 megabit and beyond. So that's just a comment. Because I've seen, let's say, in other countries, I'm not referring to Trinidad now, I've seen in other countries where, for example, they are saying, okay, 256K, that's broadband. And we're just fooling ourselves, because with that speed, you cannot even access applications such as YouTube, etc. Yes, of course.
Briefly. Yeah, and Zach wants to make a comment on this.
I'm gonna be very short. No policy making in Trinidad and Tobago wants it to be 256K. It's 256K because of our legal framework. Our legal framework has a line which says a legal telecom service in Trinidad and Tobago will be at a minimum. So a legal telecom service will include at a minimum voice and broadband, right, and other things. If you set that broadband and that regulation to above 256K, you've made GSM illegal. And Digicel, I think, still uses GSM. So if you made GSM illegal, so until Digicel abandons GSM as B-Mobile has, B-Mobile has abandoned GSM. B-Mobile uses UMTS as their base technology. If you notice, everywhere you go, you see 3G. 3G can provide 2 megs. The second Digicel abandons GSM, then the regulator will be comfortable to, without prejudicing any operator, saying regulatory broadband is 2 meg because the minimum telecom service provided to the country provides voice, broadband of 2 megs, and the other things that are required. So it's only a matter of what the operators provide, and because if the government changes that before the lowest common denominator in the market, that guy will say, government, you've prejudiced my business and you owe me money. Okay, so it's just about timing.
Okay. Zaf, you wanted to add to this?
Yeah, I want to say that it's a mindset issue. There's no stumbling blocks anymore. We have no stumbling blocks to e-commerce in Trinidad and Tobago. We have every single mechanism in place. I mean, in terms of the mechanics of it, we have a payment gateway, we have payment gateways, we have First Atlantic Commerce, which is a little more expensive, and just to follow up, it was $1,800 at that time. We've brought it down to approximately maybe about $3,000 to an integration, which is well within any business expense in terms of setting up a website. So there are no more stumbling blocks. So we have the payment gateway, we have the platforms, we have WordPress, we have Magento. We have Magento, which is a top-tier platform that's expensive, but we have WordPress that anybody can download and it could be up and running. The plugin is available. You could be up and running. I just want to, there's no reason why we have local universal packaging systems that has a module for delivery that can integrate with Magento at this time. I don't know about WordPress, that we can, because we don't really have like UPS and FedEx integration yet with local platforms, with local online businesses, but we have everything that we need to to sell online. We have no problem. So I just want to, even though Aldwyn, and two as well, I mean, with 200,000 credit cards, we have WiPay now available. People with our credit cards can go top up at any lotto booth in anywhere in Trinidad and the Caribbean and upload to the WiPay account and pay with your WiPay account as if you, like how you pay with PayPal. So you broaden, everyone is brought into the net right now. The only thing is that we don't have enough businesses, and I'm very surprised that 10,000 Aldwyn, I can't name 50 online stores, and I'm in the trenches and in it. And if we have so many, I would love to see them, but they're not there. We have people spending 500 million to $1 billion a year online in US, and that, that brought about the online tax, and it's not good for the a growing economy. But there's nothing stopping us. We have a shortage, and all the Trini consumer knows how to shop online. They're just not shopping locally.
Online. Here's an online question.
Yes, good day. I have two questions from remote participants. The first is for the panel, anyone who would take the question. What are your thoughts on mobile payments, things like Samsung Pay, Apple Pay, or Google Pay? You want to take the second one time, or you answer first?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I love it. We like the fact that we could use technology to help ease transactions, payments. 2 weeks ago, I was at the CES show in Las Vegas, and I saw Alipay, which is Alibaba's payment thing in China. And they launched Pay with a Smile, the show where you walk up to a kiosk, you smile, and they use biometrics to tie it to your wallet, right? So we came back home and we built one. We're going to launch a machine at one time. The thing is, we like technology. We're a technology company, and all these type of things that makes transaction frictionless is what our goal is. You see, the point of having to get something to prove that I am something, that's what we removed. And again, that conversation is later this afternoon, where you don't need to trust me as me. The network allows it to happen. This is what we're doing. So I could walk up to a kiosk and enter a PIN, use my face, and I'm guaranteed that the security is in place for me to make that payment, and not my twin or my cousin. So I love it. We love it. I think this is how we get average Joes onto using digital payments, by creating these cool, wow factor type applications.
The other question?
The second question comes from Rethink Consultancy. Why can't the link system, I believe, not do internet transactions locally? And why should we be using other providers such as MasterCard and Visa? Sorry, that question is directed at Glynis.
I know that question. And Tracy and I are smiling because we have a long history of that. I'm trying to put this politically correct.
Correct.
Without having to look for a job tomorrow. The challenge is, Links is made up of 4 banks. We're owned by 4. And in order to do something like that, all 4 have to agree. Links can on its own, because of its ownership, go and do something like that, right? So that's the reason why. It has been asked for, and everybody asks us question, but in our strategic mission to our owners, that's not on the cards. And that's as best as I can put it.
Okay. Right, on this side.
Morning. Hello. Morning, Ian. Hello. I thank the panel for today. It was a very interesting discussion from what I heard. One piece of it that I was missing is regulation. So you can have all the technology in the world, but unless it's regulated and people are socialized to use it properly, it's kind of a moot point. And I think that's where we are with the existing technology. Something as simple as a lot of merchants abuse the link systems. For this, I flew in this morning, went to the airport to buy a bottle of water, and they refused to take my card for purchase less than $20. And that still happens.
No, and you see that unfortunately is a sign of the economy. And actually it's gotten worse because we did in order to know what's happening in the market, we do focus groups. And I only just recently did a focus group Monday, Tuesday. And the feedback was that it used to be $10. It's now gone up to $20 for links and $100 for credit card.
Yeah, so my question was, whose responsibility is it to actually regulate the use? Because to me that seems like a deterrent. Why would I use my card when I could just walk around with cash? And the whole discussion was on trying to make us cashless.
Right. The responsibility for that, no, that's a merchant. The merchant relationship is with their bank, right? When those merchants get a point of sale machine for MasterCard, Visa, or links, they sign an agreement. And in that agreement, it says you're not supposed to do that. There's supposed to be no floor limits, which is what that is, and no surcharging, which is when they tell you if you want to use your credit card, pay extra, which is surcharging, right? That's illegal. And customers are supposed to, and we see it off of our Facebook page because we don't have a relationship with the merchant, but we have on our social media outlets have asked customers to let us know who people actually take pictures and send it. And we report it to the bank. Because what's supposed to happen is that after 3 complaints, you're supposed to be out. They're supposed to take that machine from you, and you're actually supposed to be on a blacklist. So you just can't go to another bank and get another machine. That's how it's supposed to work, all right? But that really is about people giving feedback, because that's purely legal in terms of the contract relationship between the merchant and their bank, all right? Now, somebody asked about regulations.
Yes.
The reality is you cannot wait for the regulations to do the thing. All across the world, actually, the regulations catch up, right? That's just how it is. Because it takes a long time for regulations after it goes through. But when you see, I mean, our legislative process is a bit tardy. Other countries is a lot less tardy, but they have the same experience. Legislation do take long to go through, right? In terms of where the technology is. So you find globally it's been do and then ask for forgiveness after. That's how it's been. And that's just how it is, right? Once the technology or the persons who are implementing technology, what I've seen trend-wise, has in place proper relationship with their banks, because a lot of them work with their banks that takes care of all the KYC and the anti-money laundering stuff, as well as they have proper repudiation mechanisms. Because another big thing in terms of the whole e-commerce thing, in the whole food chain, at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, how is the end user, the customer, be able to walk back the experience and get their money back, right? And that's a big thing in the e-commerce world. That whole level of trust, Aldwyn talks about that. Trust that if something goes wrong in the transaction, I can get compensation. And that's something that our entrepreneurs and vendors, as they sell online, have to understand that. How many of us have in fact had an issue with Amazon, did what they had to do online, and gotten our money back on our credit cards? Nobody questioning you, asking you, making you feel like you're a thief, nothing like that, right? So part of that experience also has to translate into the e-commerce world, the whole value chain. And at the end of the day, the customer experience is a good one, right? And because it's now not a physical, I'm in your store and I want to return, but I want to return online. And that's a whole education issue and a cultural issue that we have, that's a challenge that we have to overcome if we want more of the e-commerce to take off. To your point, Zach, because you're asking why it is you're not seeing that many people are willing to buy online and not willing to buy locally, is that whole issue of trust. And if I extend that transaction all the way, if something goes wrong, how will I be fixed? You know, and that's a challenge.
We have a cultural, again, folks, it might be my cynicism I'm coming for here. We first of all seek not to trust, and then design our systems around that. Our regulators actually they don't work on the basis of customer service. My customer wants this, so therefore let me work assiduously to make sure that these regulations are in place. No, I will provide these regulations when I'm ready and at the appropriate time and so on. I'll take my time to do it and so on. As opposed to, look, I got to do this because there's a demand for it. There's a lot of cultural issues. I mean, I can go into at length about some of the things about there's a pavement and you see a lot of people walking in the road, even though there's a pavement right there. But there's a cultural mindset. So folks, just one last question because we got a break. Right here? Okay. Okay. Well, please stand up so we can see you, so you can call out. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Zinzi Morris-Salin. Glynis, you had brought up earlier Interac, and I was pretty interested in that. I actually used to live in Canada and used Interac quite a lot in personal banking. With regards to peer-to-peer mobile payment apps like Venmo and Peso and stuff, why is it that we're not seeing integration with these systems in Trinidad yet? Like, is this a legislation issue like you guys were talking about before?
Actually, it's coming. It's on the pipeline of the projects.
Okay.
Right? So it's coming. The reality is there's so much to do. You have to prioritize what to do. Right? In the industry now, for us, and I can speak freely, the issue is fraud and how you combat fraud. Right? Because we're getting hit. Right? People fly in to Trinidad to do fraud in our ATMs, right? Or no, that's reality. You see it. They can track customs. If we have better integration with customs and immigration, we'll be able to see the fraudsters coming in. Because they come in, mine the information off the credit cards and stuff, and leave the locals with the link stuff and the pins and stuff to do things. So right now, top line is fraud. How we could reduce and mitigate the fraud that's taken place. The next set of projects that come in on the pipeline will be that, right? The peer-to-peer stuff. It's coming, right?
We have another online question.
Sorry.
And we'll take your question.
Yes, we have a question coming in from Richard Hamelsmith. He would like to hear about the new trend for Trinidad and Tobago businesses to be issuing reloadable gift cards. From the perspective of whether it can be misused for money laundering.
Well, it's simple. Central Bank actually have regulations around gift cards and prepaid gift cards. How they do it or how they should be doing it is capped. The amount of money you could load and how much you could reuse. So if you're familiar with AML, any type of AML for your banking or any type of cards that you may purchase or have from financial institutions, they cap it off to prevent certain types of transactions, anti-money laundering transactions. So in Trinidad, your gift cards should only be one redeemable at your location. So I can put money on my gift card from, I'm going to call her name, Company 1 and spend in Company 2. Those are only, the second you purchase a gift card, you actually give that company your money. It's just you join down on it at a later time. So for money transaction and money laundering, unless you're money laundering to the same company, you're not supposed to. And then you have a limit on how much you could load on, should load on a gift card. Okay. And that's by central bank. Sure.
As a user of the ACH facility, what I've encountered is that I may have employees who come and they want to split how their salaries as such may go. And one of the accounts they may decide they want to send it to is their credit cards. But as a user, I found that it does not allow me to transfer that money to their credit card account. Is this something that ACH is working on, or is this by a deliberate default that they've set this up not to go through?
That should, in fact, as far as I know, not happen. That's a conversation you probably should have with the bank, the receiving bank.
That's a bank issue.
Yeah, that's a bank issue. That's not the system issue.
Some banks tie your credit card to a bank account. So in that case, you would be able to ACH directly, like GMMB for one I know. They would tie their GMMB card to a regular bank account. So you could ACH directly into that and have access on your Visa card. But in other banks, your credit card is a separate account from your bank account.
Yeah,
so
that's a bank issue. Yeah, you need to talk to your bank about that.
Okay, one final question, because we are going to a short break after this, and then the other panel kicks in.
Good morning, everyone. Nigel Bellamy from Carragimos here.
Sorry?
Nigel Bellamy from Carragimos. So I just wanted to add, Zaf, onto what you said earlier. Education really is the key here. The ball has moved, the game has changed, and I think local entrepreneurs are not aware. You can literally use Aldwyn's system for free. You can go home today. WiPay. You can go home today, and you can get that on your system for free. You could download WordPress for free, WooCommerce for free. You could go on YouTube and learn how to do this in half an hour, and you can do e-commerce tonight. And I don't think entrepreneurs get that. And we need to spread that message. I'm happy that Tracy invited me here to see this forum, and you all started that conversation at a very high level. But we need to spread this to every single entrepreneur in this country, that the time is now. You can do e-commerce. It's real now. It works. I use it on my site. A lot of my customers, my friends use it. I'm always harassing Aldwyn. This system works, and this is a eureka moment for the country. So again, thank you for having the panel, and thank you for having me here. I just want to share that.
Folks, and
check your email.
And on that note, I would like to say thank you as well for allowing us the opportunity to share information with regards to digital financial services with you all. There are lots of issues. I mean, there has to be greater communication to the public as to what is available currently. There has to be a greater lobbying by customers as to what they would like to actually do as far as digital financial services is concerned. But inherent in all of that, we talked about the issue of culture and so on. I'll take a dig against a corporate entity here, and no apologies for it because I was horrified. I went online to buy a Movie Town ticket. Yes, I got a ticket, had a barcode on it. Naively went up to the point where they were collecting tickets and so on. The person told me, no, you have to go to that counter, type in the number, and you will get a ticket. Absolutely ridiculous. But we are paying a premium for that. The problem is that the public isn't, let's say, reacting to that and insisting that a different mechanism is actually provided. We've got to lobby for what it is we feel, what we want, and it's no longer a situation where you travel and you use all these facilities and so on, and when you come back to Trinidad, you're dumbed down, and you feel that you can't do it in Trinidad. We just have a voice, and we have to make that voice heard. At the same time, especially what Zaf was saying and so on, make available and make known to the entrepreneurs outside there what facilities are available so that there will be greater e-commerce. We have had broad discussions on the digital financial services and so on. There is going to be the open forum this evening, so if you have any additional questions, you could ask it at that point in time. But I'd like to thank the panel this morning. I mean, a wonderful discussion, lively discussion, and hopefully we'll be able to consolidate some of the thoughts here and make some representations to the respective stakeholders to make things happen differently. Thank you very much, all of the members of the panel, and thanks to the audience.